Hi there. Most of us grew up with this simple belief, if it's green and it's a vegetable, it must be good for you. And I believe that too. And for the most part, that belief held true. Until I started noticing some strange things happening. Not when I was in my 20s, not even in my 30s, but right around the time I turned 60. Have you ever felt it, that morning stiffness in your knees that wasn't there before? The kind of heaviness in your legs when you walk? Or those little moments during the day when you forget what you walked into a room for? And sometimes your feet just feel colder even when the room is warm. I see this all the time, not just in myself, but in so many of my patients between the ages of 50 and 70. They eat well, they exercise, they take their medications, and yet something still feels off, like their bodies are quietly changing behind the scenes. One of my patients, Bill, 68 years old, a retired engineer, told me, "Doc, I don't get it. I eat super healthy. Every meal has veggies. But lately my brain feels foggy and my legs feel weak, like the battery in me is running low." So we looked at his diet, and what we discovered shocked both of us. Some of the very vegetables he was eating every single day were silently damaging the tiny blood vessels in his legs and brain, irritating his nerves and stressing his digestive system. You see, the body after 60, it just doesn't operate the same way it used to. Your blood vessels become less flexible, nerve signals slow down, and your gut and immune system become more sensitive, more vulnerable. That means certain vegetables that are perfectly fine for someone younger might now be causing inflammation, messing with brain-to-leg signals, and chipping away at your balance and clarity. Sounds strange, right? But it's true. And I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm sharing this because after over 30 years of working with older adults here in the US, I've seen this pattern over and over again. So today I want to walk with you through something simple but powerful. We'll look at 4 vegetables you might want to cut back on and 4 others that can actually support your memory balance and inner strength gently, naturally, and without medication. And I hope you'll come along with me because every meal is a chance to heal, not a burden, not a risk. Are you ready? Let's begin. Now, the first veggie I want you to pay attention to is eggplant. Yep, eggplant. That shiny purple veggie that ends up in your grilled dishes, your soups, or sautéed with garlic and olive oil. Sounds healthy, doesn't it? But for folks over 60, the story gets more complicated. I had a patient, her name was Eleanor, 72 years old, living alone just outside of town. She was careful with what she ate, loved eggplant because it's low-cal and good for the heart. She would roast it with olive oil, toss it in salads, or add it to soups. But then things started to change. She'd wake up with slight swelling in her knees. Her legs felt heavy, harder to lift, harder to move. Even walking through the grocery store became trickier. She had to hold on to the cart just to feel steady. At first she thought, well, this must be aging. But when we looked closely, it turned out the eggplant she was eating every week was part of the problem. You see, eggplant belongs to a group of vegetables called nightshades, which also includes tomatoes, potatoes, and bell peppers. They contain a natural compound called solanine, which plants use to protect themselves from insects. But in the human body, especially in someone with aging joints or slower nerves, solanine can quietly cause chronic low-grade inflammation, not the kind that knocks you off your feet, but the kind that slowly dulls your reflexes, makes your joints stiff, takes away the ease in your step. So Eleanor tried something simple. She stopped eating eggplant for 3 weeks. And you know what? She called me surprised. "Doctor, this morning I walked down the stairs, no handrail, no pain. My knees didn't creak like they used to." Now, I'm not saying everyone has to quit eggplant, but if you're noticing stiffness, aching legs, poor balance, just try leaving it off your plate for a bit. Consider it a small experiment. And most of all, listen to your body, because your body is always speaking. Sometimes we just need to get quiet enough to hear it. And that brings me to another veggie one that looks innocent, even cheerful, but might be silently draining your energy. Corn. Sweet corn, to be exact. A childhood classic, right? I still remember the smell of a pot of boiled corn filling our kitchen when I was a kid. And even now, many of my patients in their 60s and 70s still eat corn regularly. "Doc, I eat corn instead of rice. Feels lighter." Corn is a vegetable, right? Sweet, easy on the stomach. I get it. Corn feels healthy. It's not greasy, not processed, not loaded with red meat. But here's the catch, that natural sweetness. That's the problem. Corn is actually higher in natural sugars than most people realize, and when it's boiled, the fiber softens, which means that sugar gets absorbed into your bloodstream fast. What happens next? You get a spike in blood sugar followed by a crash. That crash leaves you feeling drained, foggy, and heavy. After eating corn, you might notice legs feel sluggish, eyes a bit blurry, brain like it's on low battery. One of my patients, Linda, 70 years old, told me, "After lunch with corn, I always have to lie down. I feel like someone pulled the plug on my energy." So we tried something. She stopped eating corn for 2 weeks. Instead, she had a small serving of steamed pumpkin or purple sweet potato with her meals. Not a lot, just a small bowl each time. And the difference, she felt more alert in the afternoons, no more post-lunch crashes, and her legs lighter, steadier. And that's the point I want to leave with you today. It's not about cutting everything out. It's about choosing what lifts you up instead of what slowly weighs you down. Because after 60, your food isn't just fuel, it's medicine. And even the smallest shift in what's on your plate can be the beginning of feeling better in ways you hadn't thought possible. And the result, her afternoons became clearer. No more that dragging, heavy feeling in her legs. And most importantly, her vision sharpened. She stopped seeing that glare or blurriness when stepping into the sunlight. Now that didn't happen by chance. Sweet corn, because of its high glycemic index, can damage the tiny blood vessels in your eyes and feet. And those, as you know, are the most sensitive areas when your blood sugar spikes and crashes. But purple sweet potatoes and steamed pumpkin, they're a whole different story. Rich in natural antioxidants, they help protect blood vessels, balance your energy, and restore your internal rhythm. Their sweetness, it's gentle, not sharp, not overwhelming, more like a quiet stream, steady, soothing, just the kind of support an older body truly needs. Now, I'm not telling you to give up corn forever. All I'm saying is maybe it's time to tune in. Try switching it out for something more nourishing. And then ask yourself, do your legs feel lighter? Is your vision clearer? Does your mind feel just a bit more awake? Sometimes better health doesn't come from adding more. It comes from letting go of something small that you never knew was weighing you down. And maybe today is the day to give that a try. You've probably heard plenty about carrots, right? But after 60, carrots aren't just a cute little side dish anymore. They can be a quiet companion, helping keep your eyes sharp, your steps steady, and your mind clearer than you might expect. Let me paint you a picture. You're making yourself a light lunch. A little lettuce, some tomato slices, a few crisp rings of green bell pepper, and you're thinking, this looks healthy, it's fresh, it's full of vegetables. This is good for me. But what if I told you those innocent green pepper slices might be the very thing damaging your gut lining, making it harder for you to absorb nutrients and triggering silent joint inflammation? You've been blaming on age or weather. Sounds dramatic, I know, but I've seen it more times than you'd think. Green bell peppers. They're just unripe versions of red, yellow, or orange peppers. They're cheaper, more common, and higher in lectins. What are lectins? They're plant proteins that defend against bugs. But in the human body, especially in aging bodies, they can cause real trouble. Take James, one of my patients. He's 65, lean, active, health conscious. Came to me complaining of bloating, slight leg weakness, and this vague mental fog that came and went. We did tests. Everything looked fine. But then I asked him, tell me about your meals. And there it was. His go-to lunch, a salad always topped with raw green bell peppers. He thought they were low in sugar and high in fiber. Seemed like the smart choice. So I gave him a simple challenge. Cut green peppers from your meals for 2 weeks, and the results, he felt lighter in his gut. No more brain fog. And best of all, his reflexes got sharper, his steps more confident. Like the connection between his brain and his body had finally synced again. What does that tell us? Sometimes what looks healthy might not be what your body needs right now. But don't worry, you don't have to give up peppers entirely. Red, yellow, and orange bell peppers are your friends. They've ripened fully, contain fewer lectins, and offer more antioxidants, great for vision, nerve health, and even your mood. See, aging isn't a downward slide. It's a different season, one that requires more precision, more awareness, and more listening to what your body's really saying. And often the difference, it's not in medication. It's in something as simple as, did I choose the right vegetable today? We've just talked about white potatoes, eggplant, green bell peppers. All familiar, all comfortable. But for the body after 60, sometimes it's those very comforts that quietly slow us down. But don't worry. Coming up next, I'll walk you through the vegetables that don't just feel safe. They might actually reignite your clarity, your balance, and that steady confidence in every step. Want to know the first one? Here's a hint. It's bright orange. And your mom probably packed it in your lunchbox when you were little. Now let's talk about a veggie that might surprise you. White potatoes, I know. You're probably thinking, come on, Doc, I grew up on these mashed potatoes with butter crispy fries or just plain boiled with salt. That's childhood on a plate. And I get it. One of my patients, Tommy, 76 years old, retired truck driver, told me, mashed potatoes. That's the part of dinner I always look forward to. But then came the little signs. In the morning, my knees feel stiff. My feet get cold even with socks on. And going downstairs, I get nervous, like I'm not sure if my legs will keep up. So we sat down and took a look at what he was eating. And sure enough, white potatoes night after night. Now here's what most folks don't know. White potatoes have a very high glycemic index, which means they break down into sugar fast, really fast. Your blood sugar spikes, then crashes. It's like a roller coaster inside your bloodstream. And where does that damage hit first? The tiny blood vessels in your feet, your brain, and the nerves that control balance. The danger, you don't feel it right away. It's not a big dramatic event. It's a slow, silent breakdown until one day you realize I don't trust my own legs anymore. So Tommy made a change. He swapped mashed potatoes for steamed broccoli, drizzled with a little olive oil and a few slivers of garlic. And in just 2 weeks, he told me, Doc, I feel lighter. My feet aren't cold anymore. I feel more sure in my steps. And that, my friend, is the beauty of small changes. They add up. They bring us back to a version of ourselves we thought was long gone. Would you like me to continue translating the next section, starting with carrots in this same tone and voice? And the result, afternoons became clearer. That heavy leg feeling, it disappeared. And most importantly, her vision sharpened. No more glare or cloudy eyesight when stepping into the sun. This didn't happen by chance. Sweet corn, while it seems harmless, has a high glycemic index. That means it can spike your blood sugar fast, especially dangerous for the tiny blood vessels in your feet and eyes. These areas are incredibly sensitive to fluctuations in blood sugar. Now compare that to something like steamed pumpkin or purple sweet potatoes. These foods are packed with natural antioxidants. They don't just taste gently sweet, they help protect blood vessels and keep your energy steady throughout the day. Their sweetness is softer, deeper, not sharp, not jarring. Exactly the kind of energy we need as we age, not a sugar spike, but a steady current. Now, I'm not saying you need to say goodbye to corn forever, but I do want you to ask yourself a simple question before each meal. Is this food nourishing my legs or quietly weakening them because you deserve a body you can trust? Legs strong enough to walk the park trail, a mind sharp enough to hold a real conversation with your grandkids. And sometimes it all starts with one tiny shift on your plate. Now I want you to picture something with me. A dark green leaf with strong veins and a rugged look, maybe not the prettiest veggie in the produce aisle, but packed with power to support your bones, your eyes, even those tired knees that have carried you through decades of life. That's kale. I know, kale probably isn't something you grew up eating. It doesn't have the fragrance of fresh herbs, the softness of bok choy, or the familiarity of spinach. But sometimes what's unfamiliar is exactly what your aging body needs. I remember a patient, Marjorie, 67. She walked daily, did yoga every week, ate clean. Still, she had nagging knee pain, a bit of back soreness, and her eyes would blur while driving at dusk. We made a few small tweaks, and one of the most effective, adding just one handful of kale to her meals each day. You see, kale is rich in vitamin K, and after 60, many folks are deficient and don't even know it. Vitamin K isn't just about blood clotting. It's vital for keeping bones, dense joints strong, and chronic inflammation at bay. And there's more. Kale provides plant-based calcium, lutein for eye health, and soluble fiber to soothe the digestive system that's often more sensitive with age. Ever tried a morning smoothie with a handful of kale, a slice of apple, a spoon of chia seeds, and a squeeze of lemon? It's an unusual taste at first, but then it feels fresh, clean, light. Or maybe you'd prefer it. Warm lightly, sautéed with olive oil, garlic, and a sprinkle of sesame seeds. Simple, delicious, and healing from the inside out. What I've learned from working with folks over 50 is this: health doesn't come from big dramatic changes. It lives in the little things you do over and over each day. A handful of greens, a glass of water, a mindful choice at the grocery store. Each small act is like laying a brick, rebuilding a body you can rely on. So next time you're at the supermarket, don't pass by that deep green kale section. Who knows, that bunch of kale might just be the beginning of your healthiest season yet. I have a patient named George. He's 69. He came to see me because he'd been feeling mentally slow, had a nagging ache in his knees, and found himself strangely tired every afternoon. And you know what? We didn't start with medication. We started with lunch. I suggested he add a serving of steamed broccoli every day, maybe saute it lightly with garlic, or eat it with a boiled egg to get those healthy fats that help absorb sulforaphane better. And after just 3 weeks, George came back. His eyes were brighter. His voice was clearer. He said, "I feel like I'm getting myself back, not the speed of my 30s, but definitely more clear-headed with each day." Now look, I'm not saying broccoli is a miracle cure, but in a world full of foods that drain us, inflame us, and slow us down, a vegetable that cleans, calms, and clears the mind, that's something worth paying attention to. So next time you see broccoli at the store, don't just walk past it. See it for what it really is: a quiet companion for your memory, your knees, and your clarity. And who knows, maybe from one small plate of steamed greens, you'll start to feel again that lightness, that confidence, that steadiness you thought you'd lost. You know, I've spent over 30 years listening to people's health stories: mothers, grandfathers, husbands, wives, people who've lived long enough to know that health is not something we can afford to take lightly. After 60, eating isn't just about what tastes good. It becomes a conscious choice, one you make for yourself, for your body, and for the time you still want to live fully. I once told a patient this: after 60, your body's like an old house. It's not brand new anymore. But if you care for it, tighten that wobbly stair rail, change the flickering light bulb, you can still live in it safely and peacefully. And in that body, each meal is a form of maintenance, a way to preserve, protect, and even renew yourself. A plate of veggies isn't just a side dish anymore. It might be the key to holding on to your memory, your balance, and the confidence to walk out the door on your own 2 feet. Now, I'm not asking you to change everything overnight. You don't have to give up your favorite foods or follow a strict diet. Sometimes it just takes replacing one vegetable, trying a new way of cooking, or choosing something different at the grocery store. That alone might be the beginning of your healing journey. You've lived through so many phases of life, many of them spent taking care of others. Now it's your time to care for yourself, with small, steady, meaningful actions. And if today's message resonates with you, I hope you'll share this video with someone you care about. Because maybe, just maybe, a well-timed meal or a simple piece of knowledge is the greatest gift of health you could ever give. Because sometimes what helps us feel better isn't in a prescription bottle. It's in the quiet choice we make during an ordinary meal.